But I want to bring in now someone who knows more than most about the conflict between Ukraine and Russia, and that is Bill Taylor, former U.S. ambassador to Ukraine under Presidents George W. Bush and President Obama. Ambassador, great to have you here. Let's start first with those headlines about Chernobyl. If Russia did indeed attack Chernobyl by flying a drone into it, Zelensky said today that this is a war crime. Do you agree?
It is, Elizabeth. I've been there. I mean, many of us have been to that place where the Russians sent that drone. And there's a great big building over top of that ruin. And inside that building, it's radioactive, very radioactive. And so this is a terrible thing for the Russians to attack that and potentially release radiation. It sounds like it's under control. Sounds like the Ukrainian engineers are being sure that there is no radiation leak, but that was a horrible thing for the Russians to do.
Why would they do this, Ambassador? Jess, why would Putin do something this provocative, just as he seems to be getting a lot of what he wants from Trump?
No one understands what goes through his head. No one understands it. He thinks it's things that are irrational to us, Elizabeth, that he must have some reason to do that. It makes no sense.
In the meantime, Ukrainian President Zelensky said that he wanted the war to end, but in return, he needs guarantees that Russia would never invade again. Who makes that guarantee?
That's becoming clearer. That is going to be the Europeans, and there are European nations and leaders who are talking about how to give President Zelensky that guarantee. In particular, the French and the British are talking with other Europeans, including the Danes and the Finns and the Baltics, about providing soldiers, putting soldiers in to be sure that the Russians don't attack again. So we're starting to see what that security guarantee will be. Elizabeth, this is not blue helmets. We're not talking about monitoring. We're talking about well-armed forces from European nations.
NATO forces, though. You're talking about NATO forces inside Ukraine, who, if they get attacked, wouldn't that compel the United States to have to come in and help?
It is not clear. It is not clear. But these are British forces, French forces. So they're not under a NATO flag, but they would conceivably have some U.S. backing. I think we've talked about some backstopping of this kind of a force,
right?
To provide,
air support.
For example, to provide intelligence, targeting, command and control, logistics, things that we do well.
Vice President Vance gave his first big speech at this conference in Munich today, where he said, quote, "There's a new sheriff in town." He said the biggest threat facing Europe isn't Russia or China, but immigration and, quote, "the enemy within." NATO allies were stunned and shocked. Some in the audience called the speech indecent and unacceptable. President Trump thought it was brilliant. What do you make of it?
Clearly, the biggest threat to the Europeans is one that they understand very well, and it's Russia. They are living next to Russia. They know the threat. They see that the Russians have invaded a nation, a sovereign nation, 3 years ago and have killed hundreds of thousands of people. They know the threat from Russia is real and it is immediate. That's what they're focused on.
Yeah. The messaging on Russia and Ukraine from the Trump administration has been wildly mixed. Pete Hegseth, the defense secretary, contradicted himself. Then Trump contradicted Hegseth's correction. Then Vance threatened military action against Russia if it doesn't agree to a peace deal, after Hegseth said there would be no American troops involved. It's confusing.
It is confusing. I will listen to Vice President Vance. The last word we heard was that he's willing, or he thinks that we should be willing to put weapons in the hands of Ukrainians to push back the Russians and to put sanctions on the Russians, economic sanctions. That's the latest thing we've heard from the vice president, and that's the latest thing from the policy of this new administration.
But are you surprised that we're seeing, I mean, diplomacy, the language of these diplomats pick their words so carefully because so much hinges on it. Lives hinge on it. Arms hinge on it. That we've had in the span of 3 days 4 or 5 different messages come out of the Trump administration.
And they will start to hone in. They will start to focus in on a policy. I think the elements of the policy are becoming clear, even though they are taking steps in several different directions and then starting to go down that path.
Thanks so much for watching. Go to joinnn.com to find NewsNation on your television provider. And don't forget to click the red subscribe button below to get more of NewsNation's fact-driven, unbiased coverage.